Hi, welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany and I'm super excited to talk about my October TBR today. I have a lot of really fun buddy reads coming up, and October means victober, which is so exciting to me because this is my first victober on BookTube. And back this time last year, I was kind of like starting to dip my toe into watching BookTube like last summer. And a lot of the people that I followed did not do victober at all. So this is my very first time ever doing victober, and I am so excited because Victorian literature is my favorite literature. So let's go ahead and dive into my TBR. I think I'll start with the victober prompts because that's just more fun. Okay, so the first prompt is to read a Victorian sensation novel. And for that one, I'm going to read Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I have read no Mary Elizabeth Braddon before, so I'm really excited to try a new Victorian author. I've heard wonderful things about this. I know Kate Howe just recently reread this book with like her Patreon group. I really don't know anything about this book at all. So I just know it's a Victorian sensation novel, and I've heard good things about it. So that's really like not a very good explanation of this book. But I guess when I read it, I'll tell you more about it. The next prompt is to read a Victorian book set in the countryside and or the city. And I guess that's pretty much any Victorian book because it's either going to be set in the country or the city or both. So for that one, I'm going with Bleak House by Charles Dickens. This is one Dickens book that I have been wanting to read for a really long time and haven't gotten around to, so I'm super excited to be reading this. This is also on my Classics TBR for 2021, so I'm really happy to be checking this off of that as well. So it's kind of two birds with one stone. I'm buddy reading this with quite a few people. Christina from Knitting Books, etc. Sandy from, I think it's Miss Reads a Lot, is her YouTube channel. Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space. And then we've got a couple other people in that Voxer chat as well. So I'm so excited to start this book. Dickens is just like one of my favorite authors ever. I love his characters and just truly, truly love his books. So my parents, this is their favorite like BBC adaptation of a Dickens novel. And I've never watched the adaptation, so I actually don't really know very much about this at all. And I'm gonna keep it that way because I like not knowing that much about Dickens books, because oftentimes when you read the synopsis or sometimes even the back of the book, like it gives away major spoilers because it's a classic, so they assume people have read it before. But I haven't read all the books yet, so I try not to be spoiled for things. So the next prompt is to read a Victorian book with a female main character. So I have two books here that could work for this prompt. One is actually like a children's story and the other one is an adult story. And I think that either one of these could work for this prompt, and it's kind of gonna depend on how my month goes because I have a lot of buddy reads and other things going on in addition to Victober. So I want to like set myself up for success. So the middle grade book that I have is The Lost Princess by George MacDonald. This is a George MacDonald book that I have not read and I don't know very much about. It's like a fairy tale type of thing. I actually had a friend of mine send me this and I'm super pumped about it. So I'm looking forward to reading this one at some point, hopefully soon, but it's very short. So I feel like that will really help me out if I have trouble getting to it. The other book I have here that could help is Wilkie Collins' The Law and the Lady, and I would rather read this one because I love Wilkie Collins. I've read The Woman in White and I've read The Moonstone, and The Woman in White is one of my favorite books of all time. And this is, I think, if this is like Wilkie Collins' other books, then this would probably also classify as a Victorian sensation novel, but I don't know. I think this has something to do with a woman who basically is deciding she's going to become a sleuth. She's like taking the law into her own hands. I don't know. It sounds interesting and I feel like it fits like the feel of the plot or the prompt a little bit more than this one does, but I'm throwing this one on there like just in case I don't have time to read this one because obviously it's a lot bigger. And the last prompt is to read a popular Victorian book that you haven't read yet. So for that one, I'm going to read The Picture of Dorian Gray. I don't have it yet. I requested it from my library and I'm waiting for it. So I am actually buddy reading this with my friend Jessica, who has an amazing Bookstagram account. I will link that below. And Angie from Literary Labors. We are reading this book together for Victober. And I'm really excited because for some reason I have read no Oscar Wilde at all, and I can't believe I haven't read The Picture of Dorian Gray because it's a very popular novel in general and lots of people love it. So I'm really surprised that I have not read it. So that is what I'm going to be doing for that prompt. So we are moving on to buddy reads / group reads. The first one I'm going to put on here is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is a reread for me. This is the very first Russian book that I have ever read. I read it a few years ago and loved it. And I don't even know why I picked it up because I didn't know anyone who had read it or had really, I just heard the title. And so I decided to pick it up. And I'm really glad because I was very intimidated by Russian books and translated works in general. And this was a very wonderful starting place to Russian classic literature. Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space is hosting the read-along for this. There will be live shows and there is like a Discord discussion group as well. So that will be really fun. This one is a chunker. So definitely going to be probably spending most of my time this month reading Crime and Punishment and Bleak House. Those are kind of my big books. This one is a little over 500 pages and Bleak House is like over 800 pages. So those are like my big books. But I'm really looking forward to rereading this one. It's been a few years since I've read it and I feel like October is kind of the perfect time to read it because the whole book you're basically inside an axe murderer's head. So totally fits those spooky season vibes. The next buddy read I have going on is The Lost World. I read Jurassic Park in September. Danny from Spinelli Speaks is hosting a read-along of Jurassic Park and The Lost World. So we read the Jurassic Park book in September, and then in October we're reading The Lost World, and I absolutely love Jurassic Park, so I'm really hoping I'll love The Lost World as much. We've noticed the Goodread ratings on it are a lot lower than Jurassic Park, so I think some people were disappointed by this, but I have some friends that read The Lost World and loved it just as much as Jurassic Park, so I'm holding out hope. Next up is another sequel that I'm buddy reading, and it's Flamefall. The first book in this series was Fireborn. I believe this is going to be a trilogy, and book 3 comes out next year. But I read Fireborn with Leslie from The Narrative and Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space in September, and we decided we were going to read Flamefall in October. We loved Fireborn so much, so I'm really excited about continuing this series. Also, it's very, it's dragon related, and it's kind of revolution based. There's just, the government structure in this book is really interesting. I really like the world that is created. It is YA fantasy, and I've kind of been burned on some YA fantasy in the past, but I really loved book 1 of this series. So I'm really hoping I love book 2 just as much. Next up is another reread, and it's Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer. I actually just read this book in March. I loved it so much. Krista from Books and Jams is hosting a read-along for this one, kind of almost like a book study. She'll have a couple of lives. She did this in May with Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis, and it was just unbelievable. It was so wonderful. We had lives like on Sundays. We get on Sunday afternoons and just talk about what we had read, and it was just really wonderful. I feel like I got so much more out of the book by doing that. So I am totally down to reread this book. It was like one of my favorite books that I read in March, so I'm not mad about like rereading it at all. And it's like a really short little book, so I will be reading this in October as well. I think, unless I'm like forgetting something, I think this is my last like buddy read of the month, and it's Crocodile and the Sandbank by Elizabeth Peters. This is the first book in the Amelia Peabody mystery series, which I've never read. I haven't read any of this. But I had posted this in like a haul thing on Instagram and had a couple of like my friends on Instagram be like, hey, I have that book and I've been meaning to read it. Do you want to read it together? So I have 2 different people in there that I am reading this book with. So I'm really looking forward to that because October definitely seems like the perfect time to pick up a mystery. And the last 2 books I have here are library books that just kind of kind of in the mood for in October. So these are going to be ones that I will get to if I have time. The first one is The Bones Will Speak by Carrie Stewart Parks. This is book 2 in her Gwen Marcy series. Yes. I read the first book in this series, A Cry from the Dust, last October, actually. So I've been interested in reading the other book. It follows a woman who is a forensic artist. So, and the mystery in the first one was so good and I really enjoyed it. So I like to read book 2 because October just feels like a good time to be reading like mystery / thriller. And the last book I have here is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote, and I have heard wonderful things about this book. Unlike pretty much everyone my age, I am not a true crime podcast junkie. I feel like every woman in their like late 20s, early 30s, actually really pretty much all of 30s, it's like that's like what they listen to for entertainment 90% of the time. So I always like joke that I feel like I don't fit in with my own age demographic. There's nothing wrong with listening to true crime podcasts. I just never have. I've never even tried. So I might love them just as much as everyone else my own age, but I feel like I would rather read books and listen to podcasts most of the time. And so I just haven't really gotten into a lot of podcasts in general. So anyways, as you probably know, because a lot of people have at least heard of this book if they haven't read it, this book is a true crime book. So, but it's a very famous one. And maybe the first one, like that was written in this style. I could be wrong about that. But I've wanted to read it for years just because I think it would be interesting. So again, just kind of fits with that October vibe. So I'm throwing this in here with like the hope that maybe I'll get to it. And if I don't, that's okay. I could probably kick it to nonfiction November, actually. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm willing to just leave it all open. So that is my TBR for the month of October. Perhaps a bit ambitious. We will see. My priorities are definitely my buddy reads. Like those are always the things that I have like on the highest level. So, and the books that out of my buddy reads I am prioritizing the most are Bleak House and The Picture of Dorian Gray, because I am so in the mood for some Victorian books. So yeah, there's a possibility some of the other things will fall through the cracks. We'll see. Chantel at Intentional Life is hosting her Hey Readerathon, which she does every fall. Well, this is the second fall in a row. And last year, I participated last October, and it was the very first readathon I had ever done, ever. And it was so much fun. So I'm really looking forward to doing that again. I have not picked out my books for those prompts. Some of these books will probably tie into those prompts. So yeah, or I might be adding some whole other things. We'll see. So yeah, so I'm not even including that readathon in this because I feel like there's quite a few books here that could fit some of those prompts. I would love to hear from you down in the comments below. What readathons are you participating in October? What reading plans do you have in general? Do you just like read a whole bunch of like spooky books or mystery books? Are you participating in victober or something totally different? I would love to hear what your reading plans are for the month of October. I thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.